And welcome back. Joining us for our next conversation, our friends from the Protected Areas Conservation Trust, PACT. In studio with us this morning is the Executive Director, Abel Castaneda. Good morning. He is joined by Robin Burns. She's a Conservation Investment Manager at PACT. Good morning, Robin. And on her right is Eli Romero. He's the Climate Finance Manager at PACT. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for having us.
29 years of existence in conservation and moving Belize forward where that is concerned. It's a milestone, shy of 30, one shy of 30. How are we commemorating this particular achievement, and where does the work of PACT stand within the context of conservation efforts in this country?
So, June 6th, 1996, PACT opened its doors. And at that time, it was really the result of a wonderful idea of seeing how we can continue to build at that time Belize's hold on conservation as a leader, and seeing how a growing industry, which is the tourism sector, could have contributed to that. So we are tied very, very directly with tourism. You know, the revenues we get comes from our international visitors, whether through the airport, the borders, or through cruise tourism. And while at that time maybe it was an experiment, it has really become something that Belize should be very proud of. You know, we are a leader in conservation and sustainable development. And then in 2011, we had an evolution as well at that time where we became the first accredited entity in Belize to the Adaptation Fund, which is a climate finance fund. One of the largest ones that exists, and also a little bit later after that, to the Green Climate Fund, and we're looking at a few others right now so that we can support not only conservation and sustainable development, but also begin to push programs that support climate resilience in Belize, since that's a whole new issue that we are living today. Not only in the environmental world, but on a daily basis. You know, we have the heat is on right now. You know, they have forest fires last year that ravaged a huge part of the country. And so PAC has tried to evolve and has tried to adapt to the various needs of the country to ensure that it has a good footing towards sustainable development.
What struck me about what you said initially is how PACT came to be, which made me realize, and I think a lot of people take for granted, is that this is Belizean based. It's for we, in fact, that we start this, right? And it has evolved and taken on a new shape, and new meanings, and served different purposes with the same intent as it started with. But I want to get into what it means to be accredited to these different funds, and it can get a bit technical at times, but help us to understand what that means.
Sure. So getting accredited to any of the financial mechanisms that exist, both the Adaptation Fund and the Green Climate Fund that PAC is accredited to, is nothing less than a rigorous process. Okay. What they're trying to ensure is that you have the capability of managing the resources that they're making available for you. The difference is that we're not managing PAC's funds that we're granting to conservation, but we're getting funds from external sources for implementation for building climate resilience in Belize. So one of the couple things that they look at is your fiduciary management or financial management systems. They look at your procurement processes. They look at your internal audit systems, and also external auditing. So what they're trying to make sure is that you're accountable, you're transparent, and that you're fair with all your internal process. So it's extensive, a very extensive process that we go through. We recently secured reaccreditation to the Adaptation Fund, which is done every 5 years. With the Green Climate Fund, it's slightly different, that they don't have a reaccreditation anymore. It's something that just recently started, but it's basically what they still look at your internal processes. So it's not only looking at the projects themselves that you're managing, but at the institution itself.
When you consider the 29 years and the impact that PACT has made throughout its years, what do you think?
Well, I think one of the highlights of that would be our recently held award ceremony for our Conservation Investment Strategy 2.0.
Yeah.
This is our second investment strategy, which was developed really looking at the broader picture in terms of long-term investments and more strategic investments. So what we did, we had developed a theory of change and looked at how we wanted to be more impactful in the entire Belize National Protected Areas system. So in doing that, we highlighted that we want to see improvements in the management across the protected area system. We wanted to highlight how best we could get funding to co-management organizations so that they could then utilize these funding to improve the management of these areas, to look at improved governance among themselves, look at leveraging funding through other agencies or through revenue creation for their own organizations by utilizing our funds. So that particular investment strategy, for example, is work that is done over an extensive period of time. We were really happy, as we've been sharing a lot, and we're really trying to highlight it, that during this award ceremony, we were able to provide funding to 15 co-management organizations that are doing the work in 28 protected areas. And this is a big it's a big feat, because in the last investment strategy, we were only able to fund 19 protected areas. So that jump is really significant for us, and it really tells the story of the trajectory of PACT and the impact that we've been able to attain over the years.
What has been and I know PACT has sort of been on a campaign recently where you're strengthening the relationship with the co-managers and what have you. What has that been like perhaps under your leadership as Executive Director now, Bill?
Well, I think just to kind of go back to the question, after 29 years, we won't be here without our co-managers and our partners. We won't be here without our staff. We have a small staff, but amazing staff that is really, conservation is a selfless sector where you have to put in a lot of work, a lot of effort, and the returns may not necessarily always be there. The returns is in the future. Yeah. And so I think that is something that all Belizeans, we would like to build awareness of that and really have them have an appreciation to the ranger that goes out every morning in the sun, hot, in humidity, ensuring that our environment is protected and that we have something for future generations. But our co-managers we are part of an ecosystem ourselves. It's not just PAC. It's the co-managers, it's the Ministry of Sustainable Development, it's the National Biodiversity Office, it's the Forest Department. There are so many players involved, and we are just one element of it. But over the past 5-6 months that I've been at PAC, we have made it our business to ensure that we continue to build these bridges with our co-managers and to see how we at PAC can be of support to them and vice versa, because we have to reciprocate at all times. So I think we're in a good place. The award ceremony that we had was an amazing experience, just sort of being able to reflect back on all these years that we have had, and now we are here. PAC started very small little grants here and there, and now we have a program that's $12 million strong, and so we're very, very proud of that, and we will try our best to keep that and improve on it. And so I think the future for PAC is bright. There are a lot of new things that are in the forefront. And one of those partnerships that we have been building is with the Belize Fund for Sustainable Future, for instance. We recently signed an agreement with them. They're another fund within the conservation world, and we believe that it's better to partner with them and to strengthen conservation on a whole, conservation financing. So while for the 29 years we're not necessarily having a big shebang, we will keep that for the 30th year next year. We are planning together to host a National Conservation Summit later this year, so we'll have more information on that shortly. But really to provide a platform for all these partners that you speak about to come together to look at what's happening in Belize and to really look at what we need to do for the future of conservation in this country.
Tie it back to tourism, because that's where we started the conversation with, right? So all of this conservation effort is being done on our part locally. How does this now tie back into the idea of having visitors come to this country and seeing what we have in its green state, so to speak?
Well, like I said, the PAC and tourism, or conservation and tourism in Belize, is a symbiotic relationship, if I use an ecology term, because PAC wouldn't exist without the growth in tourism that we have, and we wouldn't have been able to invest these monies that we have invested recently without the growth and performance that we have seen in tourism over the years. In fact, right now we have a partnership with the Belize Tourism Board to mobilize some additional a program that will look at kind of implementing tourism-based infrastructure and services to improve the quality of experience we have at our protected areas. You know, the statistics show 60 to 70% of our visitors that come internationally, they visit a protected area, whether it be the marine area at places like Colchan and Turnef, or whether it be inland, you know, at the Chiquibul or even our archaeological sites. And so they, you know, they're one in the same. And so our job is to support the notion of that symbiotic relationship. And that's one thing that we are sort of beginning to put together in a new campaign that we also will be rolling out shortly called Breed. And it's really to showcase the importance and value of conservation first to the Belizean public. You know, it's important that you know why protected areas and conservation is important. If you don't know, then we're kind of failing. You know, like the water we're drinking or the coffee, where does that come from, and how is that possible that it's still fresh and we're still able to enjoy that? So I think that's important, and then there will be an element also for our tourists. One of it is telling them this is your contribution that you have, this is what you're doing just by visiting Belize, and also by providing a level of appreciation for them, because many of them don't really know that every time they depart the PGIA or the border points, or anytime you cruise passenger lands, some of that money goes back into conservation, and that's the wonderful formula that was devised in 1996.
Yeah, perhaps it's my ignorance, but I wasn't aware, right? And so thanks for...
That's why we're here.
Well, at least I wasn't aware that it was that you all play a part in that. After 29 years, what's the big challenge where conservation in protected area is concerned today?
I would have to say the fact that the funding, now that you understand the relationship, however, that funding is not unlimited. So going back to what I was mentioning earlier, it really takes a lot of strategic planning so that we could see how best to invest those fundings. However, I think we've done a decent job at it in terms of, for example, this particular conservation investment strategy, we are investing just over $12 million over the next 3 years. 7.7 million of that is going directly to the NGOs that have co-management agreements for those protected areas. But likewise, we also try our best to kind of expand a bit in terms of doing other investments. You know, we've branched out into the climate finance realm. We're looking at, we still have ongoing relationships, for example, with third-party agencies like MARFON, who we've been, you know, in very close ties with since their inception. We still manage the Belize Nature Conservation Fund, right? You were at that ceremony, right,
yes,
Paul? And also we do our secondary investments, and under this conservation investment, we also have an arm that will be looking at a government strategic allocation to support entities, like Abil mentioned, like Fisheries and the National Biodiversity Office, who play very key roles in supporting co-management agencies. So while the funding availability is a bit of a challenge, we now have to think outside the box and be a bit more innovative in terms of how we go about developing these mechanisms so that we can continue to do the work that we do.
Excellent. I talk a bit as we wind down this conversation about that small staff that you have there, and about their passion, and I'm sure you've had people come and go over the 29 years, individuals that have built legacy there as well. And how is it that you all have been able to continue to motivate them and build that passion within them so that they remain grounded in the purpose of this trust?
First of all, we have a very young staff at PACT. And so
as we can see,
the leadership, the leadership and at that level in our organization to be done by young people, I think some of them still under the youth category, is an amazing sort of show of the legacy that you speak about, of what others have been able to build up so that the young can take it forward. We have had great teams come through PAC over 29 years. Yeah. I think it's important to highlight them as well. You know, everyone has put their piece into this puzzle of making Belize shine internationally. When we go out to conferences and stuff out there, PACT Belize, it's from a point of leadership, from a point of being a pioneer. Right now, the climate finance team, it's a small team, but they are being looked at as the horizon, the light in the horizon by many other conservation trust funds around the world, because we have done what a lot of them want to do with the accreditation and all of that. It's not an easy feat to take on. So a lot of them are looking towards to us for guidance and for support. But with the team, I mean, we have a wonderful team from almost all around the country. The only one that I think we don't have is from Toledo yet. Okay. But it's a very diverse team, and I think that they are very self-motivated. But I think that all of us share sort of this want, this desire, and this vision to do something for our country, to be of service to our country. When I just landed there, that's I would say 95% of the feedback I got from asking them, why are you here and what is it that you want to do. And so I think that's a wonderful thing to have, in that we still have young people, we have Belizeans that want to have a positive sort of influence on the future, and that's something that not only exists in PACT but really reverberates across the conservation world. It's in Belize especially. We have a lot of young people, a lot of dedicated people that are just giants in what it is that they do.
Excellent. Well, congratulations to 29 years. I hope that when we celebrate 3 decades, we could pop some champagne together on set.
Certainly.
So
Absolutely,
next year we
absolutely.
could plan for that, right?
Yes,
Pop
yes.
some champagne and celebrate that. But I want to thank you all so much for joining us and for having this very important conversation. I'm sure that our viewers learned some, if not a lot, from what you all shared this morning. So thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Excellent. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have Modern Dance Movement as they mark 5 years of legacy. I'll leave it less than 29, but they're getting there. We'll be right back with them.